If your immigration court date is coming up, a change in judges can decide whether you stay with your family or are removed. Everything in this video is for educational and informational purposes only and is not legal advice. Immigration judges are being replaced by DHS prosecutors, federal enforcement agents, and military attorneys. In this video, I'm going to cover the 3 groups of immigrants most likely to be affected, plus 3 things you need to know if you are in immigration court right now. Since 2025, more than 100 immigration judges have been terminated by the Department of Homeland Security. One thing you need to understand is that these judges are hired by DHS, and they work for DHS, so DHS can also remove them. That is not how other judges on the bench are handled, because they follow a different release process.
The current administration, in making these changes, has said this marks the end of the amnesty era and the start of the rule of law. Just last week, 6 judges were dismissed, and 2 in particular were removed last week, Judge Rupal Patel and Nanina Forris. They were presiding over 2 high-profile removal cases. These were pro-Palestinian matters in removal proceedings, and those judges dismissed the cases. That meant the respondents were supposed to be removed or they were in removal proceedings, and the judges said there was not enough ground for removal. However, within a couple of days after dismissing those proceedings, those judges were also removed. As always, my job is to educate you and share the latest immigration news and updates, along with strategies and tips so you can navigate these waters in immigration while looking at both the positives and the negatives. Let's get into it. The first group of immigrants affected by this changing landscape of judges, where you now have DHS prosecutors, federal enforcement agents, and military attorneys stepping into those roles, is asylum seekers. There will be much more scrutiny, and there will be more denials. In some jurisdictions, reports have shown that asylum seekers received more favorable decisions. As you know, asylum requires you to prove that you fear returning to your home country because of persecution you suffered, because you belong to a protected class of people, and because the government is not doing anything to protect you, something the U.S. is built on. However, because of the previous administration, it is arguable that the system has been abused. Under this new administration, we are seeing a harder stance on immigration, and with new judges who may have to meet a quota and follow a mandate, you will see more asylum denials. That does not mean the rule of law is changing. The rule of law is still there. It simply means you will now need a significantly better prepared case with the right evidence and the right strategy. Asylum seekers with pending cases in court will notice the shift and the change of judges in immigration court right now. The number 2 group of immigrants who should be concerned about this change in the landscape of immigration judges is students and visa holders. These are the second group of immigrants who will be affected by the change in the landscape of immigration judges. If you have not been following the news, there have been 2 students who just had their removal cases dismissed by judges, meaning they were in removal proceedings, but the judge did not find enough evidence to make them removable, and they are now able to stay lawfully. One was from Colombia and one was from TUS. And those 2 judges were later removed. So, if you are a student and you end up in removal proceedings, or even before you get to removal proceedings, you do not need to be involved in any political rally or anything anti-Semitic or anything that goes against U.S. norms. To be here on an F1 visa as a student means it is a privilege, and that is how the Department of Homeland Security and the Department of State view it. Those are things you definitely need to stay away from, because if as a student you are placed into removal proceedings for engaging in those types of activities or anything that will make you inadmissible, you will have problems. You will not get the kind of leniency moving forward based on these new judges that will be coming in. And this also applies to people on visas such as an O1 visa. If you are an athlete or an entertainer and you get a violation on your visa, such as protesting again or getting a criminal infraction, you are going to be placed in removal proceedings after your visa is canceled because you no longer have a valid status to be here. You will not get a lot of leniency unless you have major ties or major relief from removal. So visa holders and student visa holders, you will be affected and your cases will be much more closely reviewed in immigration court. The easiest way to address that is to stay admissible. That means do not participate in these types of rallies. Do not participate in political engagements. Do not participate in anything that creates any appearance of criminality or violence because social media can get you taken into custody. I have seen clients, such as entertainers or athletes, try to buy guns. You cannot own a gun in the United States when you are on a visa. I know some people watching this may think nobody would do that, but there are people losing their visas and being taken into custody for purchasing a firearm because in some states they do not do the normal verification checks. You can purchase a firearm just because you have a social security number, but it will make you inadmissible if you purchase a firearm on a visa. Please listen carefully to that one. Number 3, and if you have stayed all the way through to the end of this video, this is one of the most important points. Long-term residents and long-term green card holders who have minor criminal infractions. Because now, judges will be under more pressure to clear their dockets and also move forward the mandate of the administration in terms of getting people removed in an effort to hit that 11 million immigrant removal goal. Minor criminal infractions will be reopened. And I have seen it in practice. I have seen cases that happened 15 years ago, 10 years ago, reopened, and people are getting notices to appear. The most common example is when they travel. A green card holder who has been in the country since the 1980s and has just been a green card holder all this time, travels back in and gets a notice to appear. Right? This is the immigration law. If you are convicted of a crime involving moral turpitude within the first 5 years of being in the country, you are removable. If you have been convicted of 2 crimes involving moral turpitude at any point while you have been in the United States, you are now removable. So the first one matters. If you get convicted within the first 5 years, you are removable. But if you get one at year 6, you are not removable. Then if you get one at year 6 and another at year 15 while you are here, you are now removable. And last but not least, if you get convicted of a crime that is an aggravated felony for immigration purposes, you are removable. People may ask what crimes involving moral turpitude are. It is a long list, from theft crimes over a certain amount to burglary, any crime involving violence, and even domestic violence, which are crimes that can affect you. So these people will be affected, and I have seen it. Cases are being reopened. I have even seen cases where someone had a criminal conviction, already went through removal proceedings, and the case was dismissed by one immigration judge. Those cases are now being reopened. I have seen it with my own eyes. I have filed on those types of cases as well. A lot of that will be happening under this new wave of judges as part of a coordinated effort to carry out the mandate of the administration. I hope this video was helpful, and if it was insightful, or if you know anyone else who this might help, please like, comment, and subscribe. My goal and my job is always to educate and to provide more information and more clarity, especially as an immigrant myself. So like, comment, and subscribe.